Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Winslow Township Board of Education regularly scheduled board meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. Public notice of this meeting was given to all board members and associates in a notice dated January 30th, 2023. Adequate and electronic notice of this public meeting has been provided specifying the time, the place, and manner in which this meeting is being conducted. It was advertised in the Courier Post, posted in all the schools, the administration office, the municipal building, the library, Quadruple Center, Edgewood Acres, Ellentown, and the Winslow Township post offices. And this is our mission statement. The mission of the Winslow Township School District, a large, diverse, and growing community, is to educate all students to become independent, lifelong learners, critical thinkers, and caring and confident members of their community. The district, in partnership with the community and in the climate of cooperation and mutual respect, will provide an academic environment which values excellence and diversity, encourages students to strive for personal excellence, and assist them in acquiring the knowledge, skills, and attitudes necessary to contribute positively to a rapidly changing world. Roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden? Here. Ms. Esposito?
Not present yet, not at this time.
Ms. Martin?
Present.
Ms. Moore?
Present.
Ms. Nieves?
Present.
Mr. Thomas?
Present.
Ms. Thomas?
Present.
Ms. Peterson?
Present.
And Ms. Pitts?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we announce them for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we go to our district goals, there is a statement that Dr. Petit is going to read for the sake of all facts.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board and the community. I understand that there are some concerns in the community about a very disturbing video that was filmed at the Winslow Township High School. Before our meeting begins, I want to take a moment to address that incident. I want to make clear on behalf of the board and the entire administration that the behavior demonstrated in that video was simply unacceptable. Such behavior cannot and will not be tolerated by the Winslow Township School District. While I am prohibited by law from addressing any specifics regarding any personnel actions taken by the district, I can inform you that the teacher is no longer employed by the Winslow Township School District. Also, while I am similarly prohibited by law from addressing any specific student disciplinary matter, I want to inform you that all discipline imposed upon any student in relation to the incident in question is presently under review by my office. Let me be clear. We hear your concerns and we share your concerns. Such behavior simply will not be tolerated under any circumstances by the district. While I'm sure you can appreciate that the law does not allow us to comment further on this incident, I felt it was necessary to provide this update before starting our meeting. Thank you, Madam President.
You got the vote, Chief. Moving now, board members, Mr. Thomas, to our district goals.
2022-2023 district goals. Number 1, student achievement. Continue to implement best practices for delivering instruction to students, utilizing all available and appropriate instructional models. This shall include A, ensuring articulation at all grade levels throughout the district. B, focus on innovative classroom instructions at all grade levels. C, ensuring all students have equal access to equipment and resources needed to facilitate and promote student learning in any setting. D, evaluation and updating all district programs, including athletics and extracurricular activities. E, accountability of all district staff. 2, continue to foster a safe and positive school environment that is conducive to teaching and learning. A, focus on building relationships among staff and families that will result in increased learning and more effective instruction. Promote communication and feedback opportunities. B, emphasis on collaboration with all district stakeholders. C, promote an inclusive, diverse, and compassionate learning environment. 3, market our strengths and achievements to all stakeholders to increase capacity for greater parent, caregiver, community support. A, continue with our public relations marketing plan. B, continue to work with the various advisory committees in the district. C, focus on refining our communication methods to better market our school district.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Moving now, board members, I'm at the top of page 2, awards and presentations. Dr. Courtney.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board and community, we have 3 presentations this evening. We would like to start with Chief Brigberg, Township Winslow Fire Chief, for special referendum election report. Chief?
All right, well, it's a small enough room, I think I'll be all right. Madam President, board members, Dr. Poteet, and other school officials and members of the community, thank you for having us out here. I'm also here with one of our elected officials, Fire Commissioner Robert Maskey, and we do want to discuss shortly a presentation that was provided to the community on a referendum for our operational budget. Much like you deal with, we deal with what's called a 2% cap on our budget that was imposed about a decade ago. And after almost a decade of it, trying to meet the needs of the community, the growing community of Winslow Township, we're struggling a little bit, obviously, on some finances and some other impacts that we're having right now. I'm going to say this in the beginning, so I don't have to kind of keep saying it. We're a combination fire department. So we have career firefighters and we have volunteer firefighters as well. We have tremendously awesome people that are volunteer firefighters. We just don't have enough of them anymore. And much like you've probably seen other organizations in the township or elsewhere, volunteerism is on a decline, let alone on something that's imminently dangerous to their own life, to do something for free. Communicable diseases like we've experienced in the last couple of years, and all the requirements from the state of New Jersey. And as an example, when I became a volunteer firefighter in 1991, I only had to go through 72 hours of school. That same fire academy now is about 220 hours just for the entry level. And now everything else that you want to do, if you want to be an officer in the fire department, career volunteer, you have to take a 140-hour program. You want to cut cars, it's all about requirements and certifications in today's world due to the litigious nature and people needing to be educated on how to do things. Obviously, there's economic impacts in society, who's working 2 jobs, who's running children around to different events and all that stuff. And again, as my children were getting older, you almost needed that organizational chart, because this one had to go to dance and this one had to go to cheerleading. And you can tell I have all daughters. So we were all over the place. So all these impacts over the last 20, 30 years have really now started hitting this agency, in addition to, again, much like the school system or the police department or EMS, our calls for service, the demands on us have increased. We do about 2,000 calls for service a year. A couple of years we've reached 2,000 calls for service a year. We provide fire and rescue and non-transport EMS. We work with Winslow EMS when they need some assistance to do those kind of tasks. All of our career firefighters and some of our volunteers are certified emergency medical technicians to do that. So those impacts have taken us from a department 30 years ago that had about 140 volunteers in it, down to about 35 to 40 active volunteers spread across a 60 square mile community, including the borough of Chislehurst, because we do a shared service agreement to provide them fire protection because they don't have a fire department. So we do shared service. As you probably get information, I'm the fire marshal also, so I see all kinds of plans of building and construction coming through here. And I estimate, I'm not saying it's a scientific fact, I estimate that there could be about another 8,000 residents theoretically in this town in the next 5 to 7 years. Sicklerville, just when you think that area is built out, there's additional apartments coming. There's probably nearly 500 apartments coming. There's a development on the books that's maybe 900 homes. There's work coming down Route 73. There's warehousing coming to Sicklerville, Albion, here in the Cedarbrook section, and down in the Winslow area of Winslow Township. So we're trying to get ahead of some things that are impacting us. We struggle with responses at times when we have 2 units on, and the way we're structured is we have 1 career staff unit, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of our Sicklerville firehouse. And Monday to Friday out of our Waterford Works firehouse, we have a crew that's there for 12 hours a day. And at nighttime, when we can staff it, we have a duty crew program where the duty crew, our volunteer personnel, sit in the firehouse, they train, they do other stuff. They're there from 6 to midnight, and then on the weekends from noon to midnight, when we can staff it. Unfortunately, last year, we had to cancel 100 plus or minus of our duty crew because we just couldn't put a crew together. People, again, have lives, have commitments. We still have the one company that's on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But that one company of 4 firefighters is responsible then for all the calls in the town if we struggle in other capacities. We have statistically identified that when we have 2 crews on duty for emergent type calls where we would go lights and sirens, house fires, accidents, rescues, things like that, we average a response time of 8 to 9 minutes, which is a little higher than I would like, but in a community this large, things like that, that's kind of acceptable on the National Fire Protection Rating. When we go down to the one crew, depending on where that call is in town, we could see a response time of 12 to 15 minutes. And in my definition, that's unacceptable. We've gotten to where we have gotten to, and I propose to the Board of Fire Commissioners that we go out for additional staffing. So we are asking about to exceed our 2% cap. We're asking for about $1.9 million because we have to go out to the public to exceed the 2% cap. And with that, not only do we want to increase our staffing and put the other company in Woodford to 24 hours a day, there's other things that have impacted our budget. Again, much like the school board or the township, fuel expenses has gone through the roof. Again, more demands for calls for service at a higher rate, it hurts your budget. We have shared service agreement with Winslow Township. They do our fleet maintenance work now. We've saved a tremendous amount of money, but they can't control the prices for parts for the apparatus. Our apparatus are very complicated, very expensive. So we want to send their mechanics, it's our responsibility to get certified to work on emergency vehicles and take their abilities higher to save more money in the long run. Again, through shared services. We get as long as we can out of our capital projects. So like a fire truck is a capital project versus operational, which is good because the average fire truck that we just replaced was about $650,000. That's an average. We have one or two in the town that are about $750,000. But we do keep our apparatus for 20 years or longer. And, that's something to be said with the way we maintain it and the way our fleet people maintain the trucks. But that's, again, a capital expense. That goes out a separate question. So we're looking for this assistance. We're looking to increase our maintenance line items, some of our training line items to maintain our volunteer incentives because we can never be a 100% paid fire department. We're too big, too much goes on. We provide significant incentives for our volunteers to recruit and retain them. And we're probably almost second to none out there. I'll say it probably equates to close to $250,000 goes to them. Like I said, if they're sitting in the firehouse, they are allowed by federal labor law to get a stipend to do that, and they should. So we provide that stipend. We have what's called a LoSAC program, which after you're here for so many years, it's almost, I don't want to call it a retirement program, but if you can take the money and invest it, we provide the money. They could do that after they're vested after a few years. And the longer they stay, the more opportunity to grow. We provide them uniforms. We provide them with all the same training that the paid firefighters get because they have to do the same job. It's just that it's getting harder because of the hours involved. And I can tell you as somebody who holds many certifications, it is a challenge for me to maintain that. Some of the things that we've seen financial impacts, especially with the pandemic, is the fact that our turnout gear alone is our coat and our pants. They have a 10-year service life no matter what. Anybody want to take a guess what just the coat and pants cost? Somebody throw a number out, make me feel better. No? All right, well, they're about $3,500 just for the coat and pants. To outfit a firefighter, air pack, radio, our radios, not by choice, it's not what we get, but we have to be compliant with the county. Each radio is $4,000. Our air packs are $10,000 if we had to replace them today. So it's very costly to maintain this equipment, to get this equipment. We test them every year. We're good, I feel we're good custodians with the equipment. But again, just like here, just like any corporation, there's financial impacts that with this 2% cap, we just can't compete with. 2% for us is about $95,000 to $100,000 of new money, if you will, which sounds great. But when your workman's comp goes up $23,000, your healthcare goes up this amount or whatever, utilities, how do you compete with that? So this referendum is really here to address a lot of needs of the fire district. And again, the fire district is separate from the municipality, much like the school board is. It's designed to put firefighters in there to reduce our response times. Our ambulance service is outstanding in Winslow Township, Winslow EMS, but they do 7,000 calls a year. The closest hospitals that they transport to are Virtual Voorhees and Jefferson in Washington Township. Their round trip could be at about an hour and 20 minutes with a patient, let alone the wait times in the hospital. So another benefit, like I said, we're certified EMTs. Other life-threatening calls go out now. We can consistently respond to those as part of a pre-planned response program, working with Winslow EMS, so we can get there and begin that basic life support, life-sustaining process. Obviously, the advanced life support, we get there and do what they do, which is above all of us. And then once we get an ambulance, whether it's Winslow or an out-of-town ambulance, they can transport to the appropriate facility. And again, we're just looking for the opportunity to better serve the community in this town that keeps growing. I will never stand here and tell you that we will not lose a house. I will never tell you that unfortunately through an accident or through a fire, we will never lose a person because we can't control the timing and everything that goes into it. But we are just asking for a proper opportunity to serve your needs. I can't tell you how many lives we or other agencies have saved in this community. We've walked in that homes and our meters for carbon monoxide have gone through the roof, where if those people didn't call 911, we would have not woken up the next day. But it's us securing the gas or securing the appliance and ventilating that house that makes it safe for them, getting the gas company out there. You know, we've come kind of almost a jack of all trades in today's society. We get called for all kinds of things. No, please don't use like Chicago fire as a reference to what we do. That's kind of not realistic, but that's what we do. So we're just, again, asking, and we know that at this time right now with the economy and things, it's a hard ask. We've probably looked at this for over a year, going back and forth. What do we really need? What do we do? And some people were like, you should ask for less and do less at this time. We felt that this is an important topic, the trends of the community, the trends of our volunteer impacts and other things. We want to ask the question one time. We want to set this fire department up for success in the future and not have to keep going out to the community and nickel and diming the community with constant questions from the fire department on a ballot. I'm not going to go into it, but I have some material in the back that shows you some of the tax impact. At the high range, a $450,000 house here in Winslow Township, it would add about, don't quote me, it's in the handout, about $320. And so not to minimize where this is at, but for less than $1 a day, your fire protection is nearly doubling. We're going to be able to minimize our response times by almost half in most cases on a consistent level. Obviously, we can't help storms and weather and multiple calls for service. Those are going to impact things like that. The average house in Winslow Township is $176,000. So again, we're probably looking at $120 to $140 impact for this. But again, we want to come out one time. It's a one-time increase. And then the following year, our budget stays at that additional budget, but the 2% now picks back up to where that is. So yes, on our budget, it would be a 37% increase. And I know nobody likes to talk taxes. We're the smallest little slice of the pie in Winslow Township's tax chart. And we are at 4% of the overall taxes that are out there. So it would be an impact to our budget only, not the overall tax budget here in Winslow Township. And I know that was a concern by a lot of people, and a lot of people putting out misinformation that your taxes are going up 39%. Ours would be. But again, it's for life safety. Hopefully you can understand where we're coming from. I appreciate the opportunity. If anybody has any questions, I don't want to take up too much of the meeting time. I'll be more than happy to ask questions if somebody wants me to hang around. Or you can call our fire district office and ask for me, 609-561-4225. And again, there's some literature on the back table. And I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may, I just want to congratulate and say thank you, because I know you just don't put out fires. You're at all the community events, whether it's Juneteenth or whether it's Winslow Day. You're there. I always see you at all the committee meetings, zoning board meetings, and planning board meetings, which we didn't talk about. So I just want to thank you for your participation in the community, and you got my full support.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, our philosophy has definitely been, we want to be part of the community every day, not just on somebody's bad day. So you will see us at every event. Obviously, we're really good friends with Santa Claus. It was a couple of years with COVID, we were friends with the Easter Bunny, but that got to be a bit much. But, you know, we want to be engaged. We want to be engaged with the youth. We have a Fire Explorer program also. I was remiss to not plug that, where young men and women from 14 to 18 can come and join the fire department through the Scout Association. And, you know, if for every 5, we only gain 1 person that goes and becomes a volunteer fireman, that's still a victory for us. But the bigger victory is there's 5 or 10 children that are kind of involved in something or around people that we think are good examples. And we take them to the police department, we take them with the EMS, we take them to the Coast Guard, we take them to different places as we can. But it's less children that are getting in trouble somewhere else. So we appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the words.
And Chief, before you go, I just want to personally, publicly thank you, because a little over 3 weeks ago, my family, we had to call because our radon detector kept going off, and this was 2 o'clock in the morning. We didn't know, and we called, and within minutes, you guys were out the truck and the car. And speaking, it's interesting that you should let us know how much that coat and those fans cost, because I was actually surprised to see a young lady with the man, a female fire, and what she had on looked as if it was way more than she did. But she came to my house and checked everything out and showed it was a bad battery. So, but again, thank you so very, very much.
But for peace of mind, we'd rather come out with that bad battery versus, again, God forbid, somebody not waking up the next day.
Right.
And, I have, again, outstanding, men, women, people of all creeds, young, old. I mean, I'm very proud of the fire department. We have a lot to be proud of. It's just, we are usually on the helping side of it. This time, we're kind of asking for some help, and we need it, so thank you.
And again, the election again is?
It's, the absentee ballots have gone out,
Right.
so people should have them. The election is physically at the Cedar Brook Firehouse, the 18th of February from 2 to 9. So Saturday, February 18th from 2 to 9 at the firehouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Dion Davis, Director of Human Resources for HIV and SSDF for a period.
Good evening. My name is Dion Davis, and I'm the anti-bullying coordinator for the district as well. Pursuant to New Jersey statute 18A 37-13 and New Jersey Administrative Code 6A 16-5.3, I am here to report and seek approval for the Winslow Township School District school safety data, which includes information for the district's weapons, violence, vandalism, substance abuse, and harassment and intentional bullying incidents for the period of September 1, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. So these incidents for this reporting period are as follows. Board members, in your folders, you should have a chart which outlines the summary of school safety data for report period number 1. School number 1, HIV. There were 5 alleged incidents, 3 confirmed, for a total of 8 HIV incidents. There was 0 incidents of weapons, 0 violence, 0 vandalism, and 0 substance abuse, for a total of 8 incidents at school number 1. School number 2, 1 alleged incident, 0 confirmed, for a total of 1 HIV incident. 0 weapons, 0 violence, 0 vandalism, and 0 substance abuse, for a total of 1 incident. School number 3, 0 alleged incidents, 2 confirmed incidents, for a total of 2 HIV incidents. 0 weapons, 0 violence, 0 vandalism, and 0 substance abuse. So they had a total of 2 incidents for that report period. School number 4, 0 incidents for any of the categories. School number 5, 2 alleged incidents, 2 confirmed incidents, for a total of 4 total HIV incidents. 0 weapons. There were 11 violence. They were categorized as 6 fights and 5 assaults. 0 vandalism, 0 substance abuse, for a total of 15 incidents in school number 5. School number 6, 3 alleged HIV incidents, 4 confirmed HIV incidents, for a total of 7. There were 0 weapons, 0 violence, 0 vandalism, and 0 substance abuse. So there were a total of 7 incidents for school number 6 for the report period. The middle school, 21 alleged HIV incidents, 8 confirmed HIV incidents, for a total of 29. There was 1 weapon incident, which was a knife. Violence, there were a total of 31, characterized as 20 fights, 2 threats, 8 assaults, and 1 false public alarm. 0 vandalism, and 4 instances of substance abuse. They were all marijuana. So they had a total of 65 incidents for that report period. And lastly, the high school, 7 alleged HIV incidents, 3 confirmed HIV incidents, for a total of 10. There was 1 instance of a weapon, which was a knife. Violence, there were 17, characterized as 9 fights, 7 assaults, and 1 false public alarm. 0 vandalism, and 5 instances of substance abuse. All of them were dealing with marijuana. So the high school had a total of 33 incidents for this report period. So our totals for HIV, it was 61. For weapons, there was a total of 2. Violence, a total of 59. vandalism 0, substance abuse 9, for a total of 131 incidents for this report period 1, which covers the period of September 1, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Board members, Mr. Davis having presented that report to us with your B. Any questions for Mr. Davis before I call for a motion to approve? Any questions? Mr. Davis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board members, at this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report, the summary of the school safety data report covering the period September 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the summary of school safety data report period from September 1, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
Second. Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
At this time, we're going to have a New Jersey School Boards Association Board Ethics Training. Ms. Teresa Lewis.
Well, good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Lewis.
How are you?
Good to see you, always good to see you.
You know, I was halfway here and I went, I forgot to confirm the location. So I remember my last conversation with you and I said, okay, they moved back. Do you mind if I hand out a copy of the code of ethics?
Please do. Just for the information of our attendees here, Ms. Lewis is our field service rep from the New Jersey School Board Association, which is the academy that teaches us, certifies us, keeps us abreast on any new policies. She's our go-to person. So welcome, Terry.
Well, it's good to be back. So part of the reason I'm here tonight is to satisfy one of your CUSAC responsibilities. That reads that annually the board has to have a discussion over the code of ethics. And that's what I brought, and that's what's in front of you. And since I have worked with you for a long time, and there are a lot of familiar faces there, I'm not going to cover all of them. I'm just going to kind of hit some highlights for you as we go along so that you can record your discussion in the minutes. So let's just talk about ethics in general. The Code of Ethics is actually part of the ethics statute. It was put in there in 2021. I'm sorry, 2001, not 21, 2001. In 1995, the actual ethics statute itself was established. Code of Ethics came 9 years later. So why is it out there? Because as a school official, you have the honor, number one, of serving the public interest, and I think that's wonderful. But it's also essential that your conduct as members of the Board of Education hold the respect and confidence of the people. The Code of Ethics simply outlines the guidelines that you need to stay in between in order to maintain that trust and respect of the public. You know, I talked about the statute, and I'm going to cover a couple of things quickly before we do the Code of Ethics. The School Ethics Commission that was established in 1995 under the ethics statute, they're the ones that would hear any ethics complaints. They also established mandatory training requirements for board members and the mandatory financial disclosure statements that you have to fill out. Please remember that one of the quickest ways to get kicked off the board is to not fill out your financial disclosure statement. And that's really just asking where your sources of income come from and any personal relationships that you might have in the school business. They don't ask you for numbers. That's number one. Number two, if you really want to get the ire of the School Ethics Commission up, is don't take your mandatory training. I know everybody here is very diligent about taking theirs, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention to you, make sure that you stay up on it. There is, I believe, a change coming in the ethics statute or the regulations, probably the regs, I think it's the regs, that is going to decrease the amount of time that you have to take mandatory training. So stay tuned. You're okay this year. You have a year to take your training, but come next year, some of that may decrease to like 90 days. So we'll have more information on that, out on that later. I just wanted to put that little bug in your ear right now that this year you have a year, next year things are gonna be a little bit different. Any questions on that? Anybody have any questions about their mandatory training right now before I? So if you're a new board member, you have to do governance 1. If you are in year 2 of your first term, you have to take Gov 2, which is finance. If you're in year 3 of your first term, you have to take governance 3, which is a student achievement program. And then every year that you are reelected or reappointed, you need to take governance 4, which is a legal update. So let's turn to the code of ethics here, and I'm only gonna go over a couple of the tenets, and the first one I always point out is the first one. Yep, sorry.
Question, if you're a new board member and you've already taken governance 1, is it okay to take governance 2, and will you get credit for that if you take it in your first year? Or do you
That's
have to,
No.
no, you don't have to wait, or?
You have to wait. The
Yeah.
School Ethics Commission doesn't, we've had people ask, I can take these like once a month, and we're like, no, they don't like you to do that. They have a particular way that they want it done. They do make an exception, because at the end of the year, like in October, you could take governance 2 at workshop and be a little early. But they don't want you to take it any earlier than that.
Thank you.
So I guess it's a reporting function with them, trying to figure out, who's behind and who's not. So they try not to mix them per year. So the first tenet, I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, regulations of the State Board of Education. So as a Board of Ed, we cannot do anything that is against the law. And when I say the Board of Ed, that is all of you sitting at a legally advertised meeting with a quorum of the board. So once you're here and you're taking action, you can't do anything that is contrary to statute, executive orders, court orders, anything that's ordered by the government. You have to stay on the right side of the law. I always like to go down to C. This is one of my favorite ones, because if you really want to know what your responsibility is as a board member, this is a good tenet to go to. I will confine my board action to policymaking, planning, and appraisal. 3 important words: policymaking, planning, and appraisal. And I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them. I always like to point out that last statement, because it's really not our job as board members to go out and ask people what they think. If we need to know particular information, then we direct the superintendent to say, get us information on how people are going to be affected if we change this policy to X. Or get us information as to what's going to, or who's going to be affected if we change this policy to Y. So it's not our job to solicit that, but it is our job to make sure that that information comes to us. Questions?
I have a question, actually. So it says, I was in my mind, it says to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them. So it seems like we're the ones supposed to be consulted.
I know that's what it seems like, but it's not. And that's why I always cover it. Because our job as board members is really not to go out and ask people and say, hey, we're getting new playground equipment. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? Because then we'll have 9 different people. I'm sorry, 10. We have a student rep down there. Then we have 10 different people coming back and saying, well, I talked to these people, and they said this, and I talked to these people. You'd never be able to make a decision. So we always leave the communication piece up to the administration, so that they can send it out and bring it back and say, well, this is the information that we've collected to help you make the decision. Not up to us as board members. D, this is always one of my favorites too. And I have a case here that's going to exemplify this one. I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well. So our job is oversight. And our job is also policy making, planning, and appraisal. Let's look at C. But our job is never to administer, ever to do the job of someone that is paid in the school. And that's the way I look at it. If someone is paid to do that job, it's not our job.
And we can't hear you.
This one is really important, and I have another case that involves this, but last year, when we looked at the 21, in 22, we looked at the 21 cases, E came up a lot. Both in the advisory opinions and also in some of the cases that came out. I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board. The one case that really kind of exemplified this last year was a social media case. And sooner or later, we knew that they were going to start hitting, and they did. There were about 3. But this particular social media case involved a gentleman that was on the board that, on his personal Facebook page, was posting derogatory comments about the Muslim population. It so happened that there was a very large contingent of the Muslim population in that school district. And people brought this up, and they said it was his right to free speech. The only problem was there were so many people at the meetings, and it caused a disruption, and there was so much disruption in the school district that somebody actually filed an ethics complaint around E, and it was found that he violated it because of his private actions that compromised the board. So that did come out in that case. We were kind of shocked, but they said, you know, you have to really be careful what you post. Questions on that? Okay, G, I will hold confidential, and I always point that out just because a lot of the things that you deal with are confidential matters. We're in open public session right now, so whatever we discuss here, you can talk about later. But when you're in closed session or executive session, we consider that Vegas, and what happens in Vegas has to stay in Vegas. And you can't talk about anything there until it's time that it's brought out to the public, if ever. There are some things that you're going to talk about in executive session that will never make its way out. You know, student matters, personnel matters. Some of the other things that you do there, if you're purchasing land or something, that will eventually make its way out. And last but totally not least is my favorite, which is always J. I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution. So we like to think as board members that we're problem solvers, but we're really not. Our job in that regard is extremely easy. So if you have complaints, they go to one place. And then that person is charged with taking care of that issue. If for some reason the person doesn't like the answer that they got, or there wasn't a solution, only then will it come before the board. And I'm sorry, but as a board member, I always thought that was really nice because it wasn't my job to deal with it. And I know that a lot of times you're out in public and the public does approach you and think that that is your job. So it's incumbent upon each of you to kind of educate them and say, thank you for sharing this with me. I can sympathize with this, but you need to take this issue back to the school and follow the proper chain of command until it finally reaches us. Questions so far?
Ooh,
I always hate it when I, go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
So our firm represents school boards, as you know. We also represent municipalities and utility authorities. And the operations of those governmental systems are a little different in each instance. For example, it's not unusual for a municipality or an elected council person to head his own department, to deal with the internal workings of that department. Those employees report directly to him. or her. And then they bring the recommendation, say they're in charge of water and sewer, as opposed to streets and roads. They all have sort of an assignment. Their job is then to bring that recommendation from the people who are on the front lines day to day back to the governing body during public meetings or during committee meetings and have those discussions and make decisions. One of the hardest things I find that board members, not just new ones, but continuing ongoing, is the role as it relates to the employees in the district. So I'm going to ask you the question. I know the answer, but I want you to answer, and if you can address it, I think it would be good. So this board of 9 has responsibility for how many employees in this district?
Well, I know the answer. Does anybody want to volunteer? It's one, yeah.
And if I want to talk about Mr. Davis or deal with something with Mr. Davis, how do I go about doing that? Mr. Davis being our HR director.
So if you want to talk about Mr. Davis.
Not happy with his hiring practices or who he's been recommending, those kinds of things. Mr. Davis, I have a problem with you. You know, here are my issues.
So as board members, we can't address staff members like that. That's not our job. So you hire them, they're employed by the Winslow Township School District, but they report to somebody else. They don't report to you. You have one employee, and that's the superintendent. Everybody else works for the superintendent. So if you have a problem with, Terry Lewis, if I work for your school district, then you need to go to the one person that is your employee and say, hey, look, can we talk about Terry? I don't like the information that she's giving us, whatever it is. But it's not our job to address it either with another employee or in public. Not a job.
I just have found that it really is a difficult concept to grasp, and I have advised with people that have to. I get elected, okay, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna do my job, I'm gonna better the schools. What do you mean to tell me I have only responsibility for one employee in the set policy? That's it. As you know, that is it. So everything that you effectuate has to flow through the superintendent. If you're not happy with what the superintendent does, that should be reflected in his evaluation, correct?
Correct.
And if you are happy with what the superintendent is doing, that should be reflected in the evaluation as well. That's the mechanism that you have to express any deep discourse or praise that you may have for that one employee, the only employee that board members have responsibility for, correct?
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think it's really hard when you're a board member to really figure out what your role is and what your job is. And once you do, it is so much easier and you can get so much more accomplished. And if we take the personnel out of the equation, because we don't work with these people every day. We see them on a very periodic basis. We're not the person that's there at 7 in the morning until 6 at night and dealing with all these. So we have no firm basis to make any type of a decision on whether that person is doing their job or not. We simply can't. Who said something?
Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So are you saying there should be no engagement at all with any employees?
It depends by what you mean about engagement.
I'm asking you to define that.
So, should there be any engagement? If you are in committee meetings, and you have someone that has been designated by the superintendent to be there, talking about curriculum or security or any other type of issue, yes, you're gonna engage with that person, absolutely. But you go seek them out outside of a committee meeting or a board meeting,
Thank you.
So I guess in answer to your question, and I.
Yeah,
it's
it
funny,
was
I just did
rhetorical,
this.
really, it was a rhetorical question. I have an issue with Dr. Poteet, any problem with, or in the district. Is my almost sole and exclusive method for dealing with that is picking up the phone and saying, Dr. Poteet, I have an issue I need to speak to you about? Or can I call Dr. Carcamo or a principal or somebody like that? What, as a board member, what can I do to effectuate some change or some things that I would like to see change?
So, no. You need to call Dr. Poteet, because he's your employee. So if you want to affect any change, that goes through him. Now, that being said, there are 10 of you. And you have different ideas, and you have different things that you want to accomplish. So those are accomplished when you start talking about goals and things that you want to happen. We always say it takes like 5 friends on the board, you and 4 other people to get something done. So if you want to, and I know you have a drone program, so I'm gonna use that. If you think that a drone program would be really good here, when you're in your committee meetings, those are the times to talk about those. Hey, no, so-and-so has a drone program over here, and they have like 50 kids involved in it. Is that something that we can do here? Goes through committee, or it goes through Dr. Poteet, or a combination of both. You have 4 other people that agree with you, and guess what? That's how things get done. As one single board member, you can't do anything.
I have another
Your
question.
power is with all of you. Yes.
So say, for example, you receive an email from an employee other than Dr. Poteet. Are you supposed to respond?
Absolutely 100% no. You know, what I would do is I would say, thank you for your concern. I'm forwarding your email.
Not a
to Dr.
concern,
Poteet."
not a concern, not a concern, not a
Okay.
concern.
Well,
Just an
whatever it is,
email.
thank you for your concern, thank you for your interest, thank you for your
So for
email.
example,
I'm forwarding this to Dr. Poteet.
if Dr. Carcamo sends us an email, all the board members, as a board member, you shouldn't respond.
Okay, that's a little bit different situation.
No,
So I think that would go through your communication norms. I mean, is it normal for you to get emails from Dr. Carcamo?
Depending on.
Yes.
Okay. Then that's as a representative of the superintendent.
how far does that go down the chain? Because we get it from Deion Davis too.
And again, that's part of your communication chain. So if Dr. Poteet has said you're gonna be getting emails from these people and has given that permission, that's fine.
He's never said, say he never said, but you start getting emails from these people, so how do you, how do you, the question is, when you get them, because we get them, how do we respond, or do we respond? That's the question, do we respond?
And that is a very good question. Without knowing what the content is, I
Terry, most of the,
can't give you an answer.
if I could just put some input into that, most of the communication that we get from other administrators in the district has to do with disseminating information to us. It's not really anything whereby we would carry on in conversation, but it's when they communicate with us, and they do, it's for informational purposes really only.
Okay.
And I would say, if I may, and this is a concern that I have, and I'm sure you're aware and agree. If Dr. Carcamo were to send out an informational piece where all the board was copied, and somebody hits a reply all,
That's a problem.
that then becomes, as you know, potentially a illegal public meeting, because you're discussing the business of the district. So it's very important that it's for informational purposes only. You accept that, you review it. If you have any questions, you would speak to the board president or to Dr. Poteet under that circumstance. But the last thing, it's more likely than not
that unless you get an individual email that you know has been authorized by the superintendent, either at a habit course or he tells you from his high-ranking administrative staff, which would be Dr. Carcamo, Mr. Davis, or Mrs. Boyle, then there is a high likelihood that you should think twice or call me before you respond to that. You think that's a safe answer, Terry?
That is a 100% safe answer.
Thank you.
Terry, what I should say with regards to one of the situations, not a situation, but a way in which we also operate, and I don't know that other boards throughout the district do. Several years ago, we established what we call, for the want of a better word, school representatives or school liaisons. It's just because we have 8 buildings and there's 9 of us, and so therefore each year a board member is quote unquote assigned to a particular school of their choice, and basically you're there to let the principal know that if there's any information that as far as events and things like that that you would want to bring back to the board, that the board member is there. But it's not as if we're, because they're employees, as if we're, as a board member that we're telling them what to do. It's just to let them know that we're there if they need us. And it's, again, it's nothing that you'll find in state policies, something that we developed maybe about 8 or 9 years ago.
So it's not your it's not your job to bring back messages.
It's
from
an
the school.
adopt a school kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's
so
exactly
you're
right.
attending some of the
Events.
functions and everything, so that each school then has a board member representative there, so that people can, yeah, that's perfectly fine. But like you said, it's not our job to, we can bring back, hey, look, I went to school number 4 and I went for the concert and it was absolutely wonderful, but we're not gonna talk about anything else, because they have principals and all those, that's their job.
Doc, did you have something? Because I had one.
No, I just wanted to elaborate on the leadership team members sending the board members messages or whatever it may be. I would say 9 times out of 10, or in almost every case, that information has not been disseminated without my knowledge. And it's already, it's in almost every case, it's a situation that's already been discussed with me, and they have that free hand to disseminate that information. There are some instances where they may disseminate some information I may not be aware of, they CC me, but it's standard operational procedure. They don't have to come back to me year after year for the same thing that they know they're responsible for to disseminate that information. So I'm comfortable in knowing that the leadership team members, if and when they do disseminate information, I'm comfortable with the fact that I know what it is, and if it's something they've done as a part of their day-to-day operations, fine. If it's something relatively new, they've already passed it by me before it went out.
And then, in light of that, is it okay to respond?
So I would still direct, this is just me, but I would still direct my response to the superintendent. So if, you leave this meeting and tomorrow, Dr. Poteet says to Dr. Carcamo, would you please send me the curriculum for 5th and 6th grade health standards to the board? So you get that. Well, if you still have any questions, I would still go through Dr. Poteet and say, hey, thanks for this, appreciate it. I still have a few questions, here's what they are.
And who
Again,
gets
that's
copied
your
on,
employee.
and who gets copied on that?
I would say Dr. Poteet, the board president.
Right, that's it, because you gotta watch that fear of a reply
Reply
all
all,
situation
yeah.
that
We need to stay out
that
of
concerns
reply
me.
all.
Terry, my last point would be, if I may, I sense a frustration in the board, frankly, with their inability to level with the public. I'm just gonna say it what it is. Not in that it's trying to hide anything, but that it can't talk about, people can get up and say whatever they want, right? We ask them to respect others. We have this little thing we read before public session, don't attack anybody that's here, any district members, any employees, that type of thing. You and I know that if somebody wants to get up and say something about someone, they're going to do that, and that's their First Amendment right to do that. And while we ask you not to, I can't stop you from doing that. So I can't talk about personnel, and I can't talk about the status of student matters. So someone gets up and says a lot of stuff, some heavy stuff. And the question that I frequently get is, what can I say? And I say, you can't say anything. You can say, I hear what you're saying. And what I frequently say, because it's a personnel matter, because it's a matter that's in litigation or threatened litigation, because it's a student privacy issue, probably most important of all under FERPA, as you know, federal privacy laws, that we feel powerless to convey a message back. And that's happened more frequently, not just in this district, but in the other districts that my firm represents. The tenor of school board meetings, as you know, has changed drastically in the last 3 to 4 years, and it's not getting better. And it's very difficult for the board to sit up here and listen and hear complaints of someone that's dissatisfied with something and not be able to respond. But I try to explain as best I can, and maybe coming from a different voice would help. It's Dr. Poteet's job to deal with that individual. Correct me if I'm wrong. And you told Dr. Poteet, let him know what you think about it. But Dr. Poteet needs to handle the parent, the teacher, the child. It's very, very difficult if a parent calls you to immerse yourself in that situation or tell them what you think as an individual. And the only reason I bring these things up is because it's very hard to resist that temptation of responding, right? But I don't do it because I want to do it. I do it because I have to protect you. I'm protecting you under the law, and I protect all board members. Irrespective of their views or opinions, that's my job, is to keep you out of trouble. So when I speak about those kinds of things, it's done for the purpose of making sure we follow number one, uphold and enforce all laws, regulations of the State Board of Education, right? We cannot talk about a child. We cannot talk about a personnel issue. We can do it in closed, properly noticed in rice. But that gets very frustrating for our board, I think. And then other boards I represent too, more and more. We're seeing that more and more. Someone comes up and they want answers. We might know what the answer is. They may be totally off base. And we can't say. Frustrating.
It is.
And also, may I add, it also, I think it makes the public think that we don't care, but they don't realize that our hands are tied. So I just wanted to add that.
And
I agree with
I
that
would
point.
agree with you there. That's a very good, yes. They don't understand that you can't respond on some of those, but I always look at it as a board member. I am a protector of the kids that are here, and they deserve a right to privacy. So their information is not coming out on my watch, and so are the employees. They deserve their privacy. It is my job as a board member to be able to protect that and then balance that with what the public wants to know. Thank you for your interest. I am listening to you. Unfortunately, as custodians of staff and as custodians of students, we can't impart any of that information.
And here's my question. Can we say just what you said?
Mr. Long?
I'm
you have a
sorry,
problem
would
with
you
that?
repeat that?
Can you repeat a statement just like this young lady said.
Yeah, and I've tried to do that in those situations. When they come up, it's very difficult. I said, look, and how many times I've said, I know you want us to give you an answer. Just a couple weeks ago, in detail to them, in an executive session, but I can't, there's certain things I'm not gonna be able to tell you. You're not gonna like it. And I'm sorry, it's not a lack of caring. It's a lot of empathy and caring on this board. So don't take their silence as being indicative of a lack of caring. We just can't say it.
Well, like I said, my question, the way she said it, the way she said it, she had content with it and it was a little more softer, and I just wanted to know. Was
Well,
that
she's a lot
appropriate?
softer than me, and she's a
Well,
lot smarter
I'm
too.
just making a point here. I mean, she said it in a way that seems acceptable, and she didn't talk about any other subject matter, and she got, had some compassion with it. So I'm asking, was the statement she said, is that an acceptable statement?
Sure.
So I asked.
And it's really hard, and each situation is different. And, and you feel badly, because these are your parents, generally that are in front of you. But you still have to put on your board member role hat, and you are custodians of student privacy and also of your staff member. And you have to look at it like that. And balance it with, the compassion that you should have when someone is extremely frustrated. Questions, answers? I like this session. This was a good session. We should go on the road.
You and me? Yeah, I just make it look good. I would make it look good. Thank you, Terry. It was
Any
good.
other questions on ethics? Notice I didn't cover any relationships that you might have out there, and I don't do that because you have a board attorney. But I guess just for everyone's sake, you should know that if you have a relative that is employed in the district, any kind of relative by blood, marriage, or adoption, you should talk to your solicitor and find out what you can and cannot participate in as far as board decisions. And then if you are also a member of the NJEA, or you have a member living in your household that is a member of the NJEA, you should also talk to your solicitor to find out what your limitations are in making decisions here on board.
Have a nice little handy chart that addresses those. You know that chart I'm talking
Yeah, I
about?
know
That's
exactly
the
what
best chart they ever made. Tells you everything you need to know.
Every time the SEC makes a decision, we all run back to our chart
Check
to
the
make sure.
chart. Yeah, it's true.
Well, super. I enjoyed being here tonight. You know that you can reach out to me. Kim, where are you? Kelly? I owe you a phone call. I'm working on it, getting there. Well, then I will see you all later.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes,
Have a
thank
good
you, Terry.
evening.
Thank you very much. Board members, looking at our agenda, I know that, under the awards and presentations, that there is no number 4, but I've added a number 4, and I would like to remind us why I've added number 4. It has to do with, the CAC membership. If you can recall, the last time we met, we, had, sort of a, kind of introductory, presentation, question and answer with those in the community who have stepped up to be a part of the Citizens Advisory Committee. And if you can recall, we asked everyone to submit an application by a certain deadline date, which was, I believe, January 6th. However, unfortunately, there was one that was overlooked, and that was Ms. Wanda Glard, and she's here this evening. And true to what we said last board meeting, Ms. Glard, we're going to ask you to stand up, and if you have any questions for us, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, even though you've already attended our first CAC meeting. I just wanted Ms. Martin to reveal that. Full disclosure on that, Ms. Martin. So Ms. Glard, is there any, would you like to just tell the board a little bit about yourself, why you are volunteering your time for the Citizen Advisory Committee? How long you've been here?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes,
pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be a part of the Community Advisory Board. My name is Wanda Glaude, and I've been doing humanitarian work for about the last 35 years, 40 years of my life. I started working with the youth as early as when I was a youth in high school, when I was on the Drug Alliance program in my high school at Winslow Township, where I was helping my classmates not become addicted to drugs. So I started my humanitarian work way back when I was a youth myself. I wanted to be a part of the Community Advisory Board, to be a person that can come from the community and come to the board and give you the cares and concerns of the parents and also the students of the things that are happening, the policies that you are making, that you're voting on, and be a voice for them and try to get many more of them out here. And to also, have you had a question at the Community Advisory Board about Citizens Advisory Committee.
Citizens Advisory Board, in regards to what's the difference between parent engagement and parent involvement? There is a difference between parent engagement and parent involvement. Parent involvement means anything that's happening in the school, you participate with your children. When you do the parent engagement, you're actually coming to board meetings. You're actually being more influential with the community and with the Board of Education. You're being a part of the policy changes for the youth and your children. So there is a difference, but nowadays, and we know in the society, many parents are two-parent workers. Some work many, many hours and they can't do what I do, where I don't work for anyone. So I'm able to come out here and represent for my 8 grandchildren that are part of Winslow Township schools. So if you have a family member that can be engaged, then we're going to try to get them out here and do a parent support group to get more parent engagement from the Community Advisory Board. I'm working on it with a couple of the members already, but I'm here to be a service for the community, not just for the Board of Education, but also for the children in our community, because education and their achievement and academic excellence and success goes beyond the high school. It goes to college and it goes to life. And we need these children that are in our schools right now to be successful, to be sitting across the board right here where you are one day, or be the president of the United States, or running their own corporations one day. And the only way we can do that, and that's if we're actively involved in their academic excellence coming through Winslow Township schools. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Board members, do we have any questions for Ms. Lloyd? If not, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the appointment of Ms. Lloyd to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Motion?
Motion to accept one blood into the CAC.
Second.
Moved in second. No further questions. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Thank you. We'll see you at the next meeting, Ms. Lloyd. Citizen Advisory Committee. Board members, moving now on our agenda to correspondence. Will there be any correspondence for us this evening?
No, Madam President, we have no correspondence.
Thank you. Dr. Wakita, this time, do we hear from tonight or do we wait for later if she has any report?
Usually when we do reports,
Okay.
when they do the committee reports,
Mhm.
and then she will report from us.
Okay.
All right.
At this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the following minutes from our meeting of the Board of Education, our regularly held meeting, which was held on Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. Open session. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve meeting minutes for Wednesday, January 25th, 2023, open session.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Will there be any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Candace,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. At this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the minutes from our regularly held meeting, which was held January 25th, 2023. Closed session. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the meeting minutes of the Board of Education on Wednesday, January 25th, 2023, closed session.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Nieves,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
And Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Moving now, board members, to our committee reports. At this, well, I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to ask Mr. Naya to go first. Our student representative.
Hello, is this on? Oh, it is. Hello, everyone. Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Janaya Sharp. I am the student representative for those of you that don't know. Of my report this evening, I would just like to take this time to highlight our athletic program. They're doing a wonderful job right now. I want to say congrats to our 6 signed and committed girls. They are seniors: Gabriella Robinson, Cameron Holness, Katarina Shivo, Brielle Brown, Sarah Wiltshire, and Sarah Simmons. We will be having our girls basketball senior night tomorrow. And I'd like to say congrats to Hope with her hopefully her 1,000th career point tomorrow at the senior night game. And then the boys senior night will be next Thursday, the 16th. Both are at 5 p.m. if you guys would like to attend. The girls track team is going to states along with the boys track team. They're going to states and nationals, and they are looking for sponsors. If you guys know of anybody that can help out, if you guys can help out, they greatly appreciate it. So yeah, that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and might I add, these mics are like really cool. I don't know if I said that.
Well, see, that's what we need to hear. We need to know that. So thank you so much. Moving now, board members, continuing with our board committee reports, will there be a report out of our athletic committee? Report out of our athletic committee?
Yes, Madam President. Tonight did cover some points. The boys basketball, the team is competing for a spot in the state playoffs. February 11th is the cutoff date to determine if they will make the tournament. Their senior night is February 16th, which is next Thursday. Girls basketball, Hope Goodwin is currently 5 points away from 1,000.
Wow.
It is anticipated she will achieve the milestone Thursday versus Hatton Heights at Winslow. The game is at 5:15. The team is projected to qualify for the state playoffs. I'm sorry. The senior night is February 9th. That is tomorrow evening. The winter cheer team, their senior night is February 16th. The boys track team, they play second in the Group 3 South Jersey Sectional Championship. 7 athletes and the 4x400 meter relay team qualified for Group 3 State Championship. The team placed with the most points overall at the Olympic Conference meet and are awaiting all conference honorees. Girls winter track, 5 athletes and the 4x4 100 meter relay qualified for the Group 3 State Championships. Wrestling, they concluded their team competitions Friday, February 10th with a match versus Clayton. Our 3 female wrestlers will compete in the South Jersey Girls Group Regionals. 10 male wrestlers will compete in District 30 Championships. Their senior night was February 1st. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Any questions or comments on that report, board members?
Yes, Madam President.
Mr. Thomas?
I just want to say that was an outstanding report from both our committee persons and our young lady. I just want to add one thing to that report. Our basketball team went into a history-making Camden High on Monday,
How's that?
playing basketball.
Okay, but I mean,
Well, just anytime you go to a history of that kind of and be on that type of national stage, it's a compliment to our school to be on a national stage along with them. And I just want to say they did that. We fell short, but they did an outstanding job.
okay. Good to know. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any other comments? Thank you. Moving now to our education committee, will there be a report?
No report at this time. We will be meeting this coming Tuesday, the 14th at 4 p.m. via WebEx.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Will there be a report from our diversity, equity, and inclusion committee?
Not at this time, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. But did we report out of our marketing committee?
Okay, I'm sorry. She's trying to show me how to do it. Thank you. Okay, so the marketing committee minutes are in your folders. It's really the same as what I reported the last time. I just wanted to state that we will meet next on February 22nd at 3 p.m. via Zoom. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any questions? Hearing none. Moving now to our operations committee. Would there be a report out of our operations committee?
Yes, Madam President. The Operations Committee met on Tuesday, January the 31st, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. In attendance were Ms. Stratton's committee person, which is myself, Ms. Espedito. Also in attendance were Ms. Boyle, Ms. Chico, and Mr. Mills. And the following items were discussed. 1, 2021-2022 capital project status, firearms, school 1, 2, and 3. The punch list items have been completed by DEC Electric, and the project is proceeding to close out. Firearms, school 5 and 6, the punch list is being reviewed, an update to send to MJF. Outstanding items are the installation of speaker strolls in the stair towers and in the gym. The additional work will require the approval of a change order by the board, which would increase the contract by $4,836. Security alarms in the high school and middle school. The project is 100% complete. We are waiting for final inspection. Air handlers, school number 6. The contractors for last year have confirmed that HVAC equipment is to ship in early February. They plan on completing the majority of the work during spring break, weather permitting. Walk-in refrigerators, freezers, boxes at school 3, 4, 5, and 6. Levy construction will start working on school 4 and 6 starting on February the 6th. They will begin on school 3 and 5 on March the 1st. Rebids of the circulation pumps and repairs and painting of the middle school projects. Bids were scheduled to be open on January 31st, 2023. All bids for both projects came in over the amount budgeted. 2021-22 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. The exit conference was held on January the 30th. The districts did well. The state has not released all information required to complete the report. However, if we file before March the 17th, 2023, we will not be penalized for a late filing under CUSAC. New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, CUSAC. The district is scheduled for CUSAC review beginning Wednesday, February the 1st, 2023. Documents have been uploaded. We have also compiled records for their review. 2023-2024 school budget development. The 2023-2024 budget software is now available. The principal and department heads have entered their budget into the district software. Scheduled meetings with each principal and department heads will take place shortly. Since we do not anticipate additional state aid with costs rising across the board, the 2023 and 2024 budget will stretch tight. We will have to be very conservative in order to develop a balanced budget that will meet our district needs. The meeting adjourned at 6:26 p.m. and the next meeting is scheduled on Tuesday, February the 21st, 2023 at 5:30 on WebEx.
Thank you, Ms. Britton. Any questions or comments on that, on our operations committee report? Thank you. Moving now to our policy committee, and I'll just make this very brief. The policy committee held a virtual meeting on January 26, 2023 at 5 p.m. Members present were myself, Board President, Ms. Debbie Esposito, Ms. Rebecca Nieves, Mr. Joe Thomas, and Dr. Carcamo, and Dr. Poteet, Superintendent. The Policy Committee reviewed the following bylaws, committees, and regulations that board members, you will see the whole list of them. They're in our agenda tonight for first reading. All policies are existing policies with the exception of regulation, number 2425, which is the emergency virtual or remote instruction program, which is a new mandated regulation which accompanies policy number 2425. The bylaws, policies, and regulations included new wording, new statute codification and alignment, and clarification of terminology to the existing policies and regulations. The committee approved moving all bylaws, policies, and regulations forward for first reading, which is at our meeting tonight. The committee also decided that all board members would receive an electronic copy of the strikeout copies and a hard copy of the approved policies after the second reading. Ms. Esposito disagreed and felt that a hard copy was not needed. The meeting ended at approximately 6:15 p.m. Would there be any questions or comments about the policy committee meeting?
Just one clarification.
Ms. Esposito?
Yes. My comment was that we didn't need a copy of the final copy if we were provided with the strikeout. We didn't need both.
I see.
I suggested that we were provided with the strikeout copy so that the board members would be able to see visually the changes that were made.
Okay, so we will change that to say that you disagreed with the providing both copies,
Right.
but that you felt that it would be sufficient enough to provide the board members with the strikeout copy.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Esposito.
And I just want to say that I appreciate getting the strikeout copy electronically because, you know, the trees. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Moving now, Citizens Advisory Committee, Ms. Martin, would there be anything you would want to report out on that?
Yes.
Okay.
The Citizens Advisory did have their first meeting. Dr. Poteet and Ms. Pitts were, board president were present. We had very engaging conversations, and I'm looking forward to working with the new members that we have on board for this year. Our next meeting is March 2nd at 7 p.m. in the administration building.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Board members, still on page 2 at this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the superintendent's report as it begins at the bottom of page 2 and continues through to the middle of page 7. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the superintendent's report.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Would there be any comments or questions?
Yes, Mrs. Pitts, Madam President, if I may, number 19, I was informed by Mr. Davis that there's,
What page is that? That's what page,
I'm sorry, page 5.
Page 5?
Page 5, number 19.
Mhm.
There's some issues in reference to the individuals who are listed, so I'm being asked to table,
Table 19?
table 19 to the next board meeting.
Okay. Any other further comments or questions with regards to the superintendent's report? Thank you. At this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the superintendent's report.
Motion to approve the
Yes.
Okay.
superintendent's report with number 19 on page 5 being tabled.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden?
Yes.
Ms. Esposito?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Nuevas?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Moving now, board members, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the Business Administrator or Board Secretary's report that begins at the bottom of page 7 and continues through to the top of page 12. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept to approve the Business Administrative Board Secretary's report.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Nieves,
Yes, but I need to abstain from item number 12 on page 9.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Abstain for page 9, number 12.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Moving now, board members, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the personnel report as it appears on the bottom of page 12 and continues through to the top of page 15. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the personnel report. As suggested by the superintendent, begins on the bottom of page 12 and goes through to page 15 at the top.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Nieves,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
And Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
The motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Moving now, board members, to our pink copy of the addendum, and it is just one item there. And I want to be sure that I'm asking for a motion to approve the addendum, the personnel report as approved by our superintendent. And it begins and ends on page 1. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the personnel report and recommendations of the superintendent. It begins on page 1 and ends on page 1 of the addendum.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Nieves,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Moving now, board members, to the Open Public Records Act request. Ms. Boyle?
Yes, Madam President, between the period of January 2023 and February 2nd, 2023, we responded to 4 OPA requests. The first one was from Ms. Tracy Smith, and she requested the meeting minutes from the closed session held on Wednesday, January 4th. Those minutes were supplied. Ms. Smith also requested the closed session meeting from January 11th. Those were supplied. However, any records that are under litigation or withheld from, not able to be held, withheld or supplied were redacted. We received a request from One Screen Solutions. They wanted records in regards to an RFP 2023-06. They wanted the bid tabulation and digital copies of all submitted proposals by participating vendors. Those records were compiled and supplied. And we received a request from Smart Procure. They wanted purchasing records from July 28th, 2022 to current. And they were looking for purchase order numbers, and if not used, comparative substitute is acceptable. They wanted the invoice, the encumbrance, or a check. Those records were generated and also supplied.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Moving now, board members, to informational items. Dr. Potteet?
Yes. Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I have several information items. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can recall, at our last school board meeting, a parent came to the mic and stated that our wrestling team was treated in a disrespectful manner at one of their recent wrestling matches by one of our neighboring school districts. Do you recall that situation? I did have an opportunity to talk with that parent so that she could give me specifics. In turn, I did call the superintendent of that school district, and he stated to me that he would investigate the matter, speak with his athletic director, the coaches of that particular team. And there's one point that I wanted to make is at every sporting event, there is an announcement made, and it's called the Sportsmanship Public Service Announcement. And it defines how you should conduct yourself as an athlete or as a spectator. We do that several times during the course of our games, and it is required through the prosecutor's office because it's the spectators as well as the participants should be promoting goodwill. He stated that he would be talking with those individuals who are responsible for reading that announcement, but not only reading it, but make sure that those individuals who are participating and spectators fulfill the requirements of that announcement. I told him, of course, I was satisfied with that. I've been knowing that particular superintendent for over 10 years, and I was comfortable in knowing that he would pursue that matter and address it. So at this point, I just want to follow up and let you know that I did pursue that as I promised, and I did tell the parent that I would do the same. All right? I have some information I want to pass out first to the board members. This is a draft. Everyone have one there? One more? Just take one and just pass the others down to this. Yes, may I have one more, please? Why don't you pass one back? I think you have enough for everyone. All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, in the superintendent's report, you approved the guest speaker that I'd asked to come to the school board. One of the things we have been emphasizing this year, as you well know, is parent engagement. And we believe that parent engagement is essential for the success of our students and the school district. I also, and I want to correct, because I did give Ms. Moore some incorrect information on the date. I mentioned the 22nd for our town hall meeting, but I remember we never do town hall meetings on board meeting nights. The 22nd is a board meeting night. So our town hall meeting will be March 15th, in between school board meetings as we normally do. What I have in front of you, ladies and gentlemen, is a young lady. Her name is Dr. Kara I. Eva. I sat in 2 workshop sessions with this individual on mental health and social emotional learning. She's excellent presenter, in my opinion, and I think one of the issues we talk about a lot is mental health and social emotional learning, but I don't think a lot of people understand what it is and why it should be addressed. So I did contact Dr. Eva, and that was one of the reasons why I was somewhat hesitant in being able to come up with the topic, because I wanted to make sure we were able to confirm her date and time and her availability. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have our second town hall meeting on March 15th at the middle school, in the middle school cafeteria. Dr. Aiva will be discussing mental health and social emotional learning. The flyer you have in front of you is our tentative draft, but it is functional. So if you scan that barcode there, you'll get Dr. Aiva's bio. She is a professor at Rowan University. She does family presentations and workshops across the state and other parts in the country. And I think she'll be excellent for our parents. We're going to start advertising this starting tomorrow. Give us a full month because we want our parents to come out and engage and be able to participate in what mental health is, what it does, how to identify it, social emotional learning, how you can work with your children at home, what it is, and how you can incorporate some of these ideas and suggestions at home. So that's going to be our town hall meeting. I felt that we need to do something a little different, something a little more feasible for the parents, something that they would get something out of as opposed to our standard type town hall meeting. So this is our second phase of our parent engagement, parent involvement. We want our parents to come out. So we're going to be doing, of course, our robocalls. We're going to have this information at each school. Of course, it'll be on all of the schools' websites, and any other ideas and suggestions that the marketing committee can give us to get the word out. We are hoping to fill that cafeteria with parents that evening so that they can take advantage of this information. I think she's excellent in what she presents, and I think she's very interactive, and I'm hoping that the parents will come out and take advantage of this particular service. Any questions at this time? Yes, Ms. Moore.
When this is finalized, just in case this isn't the final draft?
Yes,
Can you please email it to me?
I absolutely will.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Esposito, I know you sent the question. Do you have any questions or clarification or anything at this point?
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're looking forward to it. And I'm hoping the parents will come out and we'll do whatever we can to continuously get the word out. I think it's a valuable opportunity for our parents and for our community. You don't necessarily have to be a parent to participate. My next information item, Camden County is hosting a public hearing here in Winslow Township on Monday, February 13th at 6 p.m. at the Winslow Township Municipal Building. They had received monies, and of course, the Winslow Township Municipal Building in the courtroom. They've received a proposal for Jake's Place. It's a playground for meetings, so you can hear about the kinds of things they want to do in that new Brooklyn Park location on Ariel Road and Lehigh Manor Drive. The scope of the project is that they propose to create the following new facilities at New Brooklyn Park: an inclusive playground for children for all abilities, a concept plan showing the proposal changes, and a preliminary cost estimate can be found on the Camden County website. So if you're interested, the meeting will be Monday, February 13th at 6 p.m. at the municipal building. All right. We also have a Camden County Town Hall meeting coming up. That meeting is scheduled for February the 16th. That Town Hall meeting, if you go to the Camden County website, it's by invitation only. If you're interested, you have to log in and register in advance. However, it's going to be held at the Bud Dougal Senior Citizen, 33 Cooper Folly Road here in Atco. Congressman Norcross will be here, Louis Capilelli, Camden County Commissioner Director Paul Moriarty, the Assemblyman, and our own, of course, Marie Lawrence, Winslow Township Mayor. So it's a town hall meeting, your government, your neighborhood, your voice. They're asking for those who are interested, go to the Camden County website, RSVP in advance, because I think the Bud Dougal Center can only hold but so many. So if you don't register in advance, but it will be live streamed. So I promised the township that we would support them in making sure we announce that at our earliest meeting. Last but not least, on March 22nd, which is our second meeting in March, we will have our Future Chefs competition again. Remember years ago, for those of you who were board members, we would have schools 5 and 6 young people participate in a Future Chefs project through Sedesco. And then the finalists will be at our meeting. They will be preparing meals for your taste and for you to judge which one of those individuals will be the winner of the Future Chef project. It's a very inclusive, very competitive, but it's a fun project. The young people look forward to it. Of course, we have not had it for a couple of years because of COVID, so it is back. Mrs. Lillard and Mr. Watkins are pleased to know that we are able to host that again. Madam President, members of the board, that concludes my information items for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Moving now, board members, would there be any old business that you would care to discuss at this time? Anyone? All right, moving on. New business, board members. Would there be any new business that you would care to discuss at this time? There's just one, item that I would want to bring to your attention, board members. I received an email that talked about the, I think it was Ms. Moore. I think you sent us an email that talked about the ad for the Spring Festival.
Yes.
The ad for the Spring Festival. As we know, those of us who've been, that's not unfamiliar to
And
us.
not for the spring festival, for the spring musical.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Spring musical.
Oh, I was thinking about my grade school. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, spring musical. And so, they do a great job with the program, and usually, in the past, we have, as a board, submitted, an ad, and Ms. Peterson usually does, helps us with the graphics on that, but what I'm asking, what I need to know, board members, is whether or not we are in agreement that we will submit an ad. Not sure what the price of cost would be, but I just need to know if we're agreeable to that.
Can we do a full page?
It's totally up to us. Put the motion forward.
I make a motion that we do a full page ad for the spring musical program.
Second.
Moved by, Ms. Moore, that we do a full page ad for our spring musical. Second by Ms. Martin. Any further comments or questions?
Can I ask the cost?
That's a good question.
I did forward that, just give me a minute, I can tell you. It is. A full page is $75.
Okay, full page $75. That means divided by 9.
10.
Each of us, 10, divided by 10, so $7.50 from each of us? Okay. Any other questions before I ask for? Hearing them? No more questions? All right, roll call, please, on that motion?
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Esposito,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Nieves,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Pitts,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Moving now, public comment.
Thank you, Madam President. Certainly, public comment. The Winslow Township Board of Education highly values the input of citizens in making important decisions that affect the children of our community. We believe in the rights of citizens to observe board meetings, to ensure that all of our citizens have the opportunity to attend school board meetings and offer comment, and to ensure that the board can conduct the important business of the district. We ask the speakers follow the guidelines for making public comment. Regarding public comment, the board secretary will recognize those individuals in the audience who wish to make comment. We'd ask that you kindly respect the following procedures. 1, all members of the public attending school board meetings must treat each other and the board with respect. 2, state your full name and address before addressing the board. 3, please limit your comments to 4 minutes. 4, in the event you do not get an answer to your question, submit your questions to the Board of Education with your name, address, and telephone number where you can be contacted. Your questions will be answered within a reasonable time. And number 5, individuals offering citizen comment are not permitted to make personal attacks on any district employee, board member, or other testifier or member of the public.
Thank you, Mr. Long.
You're welcome.
Motion, ready for a motion to approve our moving into public comment?
Motion to approve us opening up public comment.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore, all in favor? Any nays? Thank you. Ms. Boyle?
Ms. Wanda Glaud?
Good evening again. My name is Wanda Claude. I live at 30 Melville Court, Sicklerville, New Jersey. Two items that I was going to present to the board. I'm gonna wait until after the March 2nd CAC meeting so I can discuss it with them and we can come up with a game plan. Because being a part of this board, I want to commit that I don't want to bring problems. I want to bring the solution. So, or a recommendation for a solution. So I'll bring those after that meeting. But there is a question I do have. I'll make it real fast. In regards to the athletes that just received their full scholarships on sign day, I want to congratulate them first. But I have a question for the board. For the NCAA requirements for any athlete to get a full scholarship to college, do any of you all know the requirements for an athlete to actually be eligible? When the eligibility starts? When, as student athletes, they have to be prepared to start preparing for that grade point average in their SAT scores?
Yes.
So right now, I see 6 young ladies that made it with athletic scholarships. We have a large amount of athletes, student athletes that played sports throughout the whole school year, including football players, some football players that made it all the way to the States where the school didn't even make it to a D2 school. So my question is, what accountability are we holding these coaches that are there firsthand with our athletes to make sure that they're getting their core courses completed? Are they on the right core course from 9th grade on? And are they keeping up with their GPA average? Because many parents start their children off as young as 6 years old, 5 years old, and these programs that we're paying $100+ to have our kids in the Little League programs, and hope that one day that they'll be good enough as an athlete and even a student athlete to make it to the high school level, to get a college scholarship, to make it to the next level, to help pay for that cost. When my sons got their 5-year scholarships to college, at that point years ago, it was $250,000. Now, 8, 9 years later, I know college tuition, room and board, and all that is way more expensive. So let's help our kids continue to have that academic excellence and be able to qualify for these scholarships so we can get more colleges back at Winslow Township to give our kids the opportunity to excel in life, not just be here getting state championships for the high school. Because beyond their life goes beyond here, but if we can't set them up for success, there's no need even allowing them to be on these athletic programs. And that's basically all I have to say.
Ms. Moore, was that a question?
The question is, I know the answer to the NCAA rules.
Oh, right.
I know the answer. I know the answer, but I want to make sure that we are setting the standard. When we talk about the dress codes, the cell phone codes, and all the different standards and policies that we're putting out, there's one policy that I don't see that's being, in my opinion, and there's no facts being thrown at anyone on this board, but in my opinion, academic excellence is not one of the things that we're making sure that we're cracking that whip to make sure our kids are successful to go past high school, period. And we need to make sure we elected the board. My vote didn't end at the poll. My vote continuously, as long as whoever I voted for on this board, it lasts as long as you're in that seat. And I, as a resident of Winslow Township and have grandchildren in our schools, will fight for these children to be able to have the best educational opportunities that they can have. And why can't we do it here in Winslow Township? We need to do it here in Winslow Township. We are a township of mainly of color right now. And we have a big responsibility to our kids to make sure they have the same opportunities that Cherokee, Cherry Hill, Eastern, and all of these other schools that they're saying, quote unquote, have a better educational system, which is no better than ours, looking at our state results. So we need to put the metal to the pedal and make sure this is happening, not just for our student athletes, for our band, Colleges offer all kinds of scholarships. And we need to make sure that our parents can get their kids into scholarships and be able to afford their children to go to college if we can help them through the educational program. And that's my fight right now. Thank you.
Mr. Doyle, we applaud your position. As a matter of fact, you're probably one of a few parents in the years I've been here that come up here and argue with us about student achievement. I applaud you. I applaud you. I applaud you because that's first and foremost. And I think beyond anything else, that is what we should be doing. NCAA eligibility requirements start when they're in first grade, even though the grades are accumulated starting in ninth grade, 9 through 12. It used to be your grade point average is dependent upon how high your SAT scores. It was a sliding scale. The higher your SAT scores, the lower your GPA can be. However, flip side is the higher your GPA, then the lower your SAT scores. But when I say lower, I mean they don't have to be as high. They sort of balance each other out. In the past 2-3 years, schools are using the SAT and ACTs optional. You don't necessarily have to have a high ACT or SAT score. You don't even have to take them, which means that this is an opportunity for even more young people to get in school, because now all you need is your grades, the things that you are working for every day of the year. So if you can get, let's say, a 3.0, if you can get a 3.0, you're almost guaranteed. And if you have any talent as an athlete, you're almost guaranteed to get a scholarship. That brings me back, and I don't ever want anyone to feel that we are going to push this off on anyone other than ourselves, because if a parent does not engage or get involved with us with this, we still have the responsibility of making sure those young people get the academics that they need in order for them to be successful. It would make it easier for us if we could collectively work together so that this academic achievement issue becomes one that we are on the same page with. But I applaud you. Absolutely. It is the number one thing. And I don't care how good an athlete you are, as you've already pointed out, if you don't get the grades, you're not going to go anywhere. And it's been proven year after year after year after year. There's so many young people out there applying for schools. It's almost like if you're an athlete, you come a dime a dozen. They can go get 20 more people just like you. But we need to understand that. So yes, I support you 100%. We need to do a better job, because I've seen a lot of our athletes who have the potential, but then don't succeed because they didn't meet the academic requirements. So yes, I am 100% behind you, 100% for you. I applaud what you said. We're going to continue to do our part best we can. And I'm not advocating perfection on our part. We still have a lot we need to do. But I think with your direction and getting more parents to support us, get involved, we're going to get this thing taken care of. But I appreciate your comments.
Dr. Poteet,
Yes.
being that I've been in higher education for years, you have to also look, the Common App has changed. Back years ago, there wasn't a Common App. So parents need to be aware of how they put together their Common App, and they need guidance. It's a lot of work, students. I know in the past 5 years, I've had students that asked their parents if they could come and work with putting their package together. They were successful. They did get scholarships, but it takes time because Common App is different. When you talk about athletes, we also have to keep them healthy. We want scholar athletes, but they also have to be healthy, because it's a group that's out there that's a lot, and the demand for athletes, you can have 100 people playing. They're looking now in the 9th grade. They're looking now at schools, or looking at them now and inviting them out. So that's something that they have to take advantage of too. And sometimes we have to look as a community. We may have to have those coaches come in from the highest college level to look at our people, because they cannot go out there. Penn State is looking, they've been looking since September. So, and those are ninth graders.
And don't get me wrong, now, everything that's been said here, we're doing. We have provided, now, the Common App has been in place for a number of years. We have college nights, our counselors are doing a lot of work with our individual students as well as our parents. We have to get more people to take advantage of the resources that we have available. So it's not like we're not doing it. Sure, we can always do more, but the resources are here. The resources are plentiful. We just have to take advantage of the resources that we have available in the school district. You got to come out. Instead of you go up there at the high school for college night, you can't go in there and only have 4 or 5 people. We're missing a lot of opportunities, and whatever it is we need to do to get more people out. But all the services we talk about, all the resources, Winslow Township High School have those resources. They're providing those services. Sure, on the flip side, we have young people going off to college every year, some of the most impressive colleges in the country. 90% of the youngsters who go to college from Winslow go for academics. Okay? I mean, we have a lot of athletes, but the academic students are the ones who are the overwhelming majority of students who are going to school. But yes, our athletic situation needs to improve because we have too many young people who are athletically inclined, not taking advantage of the academic program. So we need to clean it up and do whatever we have to do to get it right. But I appreciate the comment.
I have a comment to that as well. I know I have a request then, because I know when you have athletics, we know the wins and losses of each individual team. We know whether they're 13-1 or 2-10 of each individual team. And I am trying to obtain that information because I want to know the GPA of each individual team. And I was wondering if there's something we can do, because I've been having a problem getting that type of information. I want to know the GPA of each individual athletic team so we can make assessments and make decisions based on that, and make sure that our coaches and everybody are in tune with their academics and keeping that in the forefront.
Well, let me address that. The coaches are in tune with the academics, and yes, the coaches can do a much better job. We don't just make that the responsibility of the coach, we make the responsibility of the teachers. We don't do team grade point averages, we do individual grade point averages. That has never been required to say what is the team's grade point average. Now, colleges do that for a lot of reasons because they have to show graduation rates and all that. But each coach know the individual GPA of every kid on their roster. They have to make sure they're sitting down working with them to make sure they are eligible in order for them to participate. They have study halls. They have a counselor that's responsible for the academic programs and the NCAA eligibility requirements. The athletic director is responsible for making sure that they have that eligibility individual information as well as weekly or monthly academic assessments that the teachers, the young person will go to each teacher, and the teacher have to indicate throughout the course of a semester what is that child's GPA. So sure, we have individual GPAs for every individual student, but we've never asked, nor has the NJSIAA asked, for team GPAs. That's not something that's available because it's never been asked for. But individuals, we can go down and tell you everybody who's playing on the basketball team what his GPA is. Sure, it's just a matter of calculating all the GPAs combined, but we've never asked for it.
I'm just putting in a request for it. Is it possible? Am I in a position to ask for that?
Not if it's not already done. Any Oprah request, anything you ask for, if the document doesn't exist, it's not a responsibility for someone to go out and create that document to provide it. So at this point, no, it's not available because the document doesn't exist.
So now, Mr. Thomas, do you have further questions or do you have further requests?
No, I mean, if that document, if you don't seem like that document is imperishable or it's information that should be shared, then that's the answer.
Well, it's not a matter of should it be shared. I mean, we're withholding evidence or anything of that sort. It's just that it's not available.
I mean,
It's never been
if it's
required.
a simple calculation, it's basically saying that the calculation is not going to be released.
But let me ask this, Dr. Monkey, is it a calculation that we can do? Is that problematic or?
No. If it's something that you want the coaches to do, then it's just a matter of us saying to the coaches, as part of your requirements, we want you to have the GPA, average GPA for your team.
Okay, now, Mr. Thomas,
That's what I like to see.
Okay. All right.
We have, as I said before, we work on an individual basis. We know what the GPA of every student in every program.
Right.
That's how you monitor their success. We monitor each individual in order for them to be academically eligible through a semester from season to season. You must have a certain GPA as required by the NJSIAA.
Right, I do understand all that, Dr. But Mr. Thomas is saying, is it possible that we can indeed get what he is asking for?
If you want,
Cumulative.
okay, if you want the athletic director to create that document,
Yes.
then it's a matter of her creating the document.
Mr. Thomas, is that what you're
I
asking
would be
for?
so pleasantly happy.
Okay, all right. So that's not any motion that we have to do, that's just a
No,
request.
and if I may clarify, Ms. Pitts, because I'm familiar with what Mr. Thomas respectfully is discussing. When you make that request as an open request, it's considered a request by a private citizen, the law says that you do not have to create a document that does not already exist. And as you saw tonight with our open request and what Mrs. Boyle receives in her office, there's a litany of information, and we get a report as to what that is. So as a citizen making an open request, a document that doesn't exist is a perfectly legal, legitimate answer to provide. However, as a board member, if you ask the superintendent whether it would be appropriate or whether you could make available to a board member a document, obviously with no names involved, but as a general rule, what is this team's average GPA versus this team's average GPA? That is an appropriate request for a board member to make of the superintendent. It's just, the problem is when it's a public issue, and it comes from a member of the public under the Open Public Records Act, then under that scenario, it would be a very bad precedent for the school to set to start creating documents of every open request we make, because Ms. Boyle would be overwhelmed in her office preparing documents that don't exist. That's why that exemption exists in the law. But as a board member, you heard Dr. Poteet's response. He can make that available to you if the board is requesting it. And the request is made, and it seems as Dr. Poteet's amenable, so
Okay, so
no
we'll
further
consider-
actions required.
We'll consider it done, Mr. Thomas, okay?
Perfect.
All right.
Can I get back to Mike? We do have somebody else.
We have to go down the whole list.
I know, but you guys was talking about what I was speaking, but you went out to right field from what my whole point was.
Okay.
Because it's not just GPA, it's also core courses that they need to take.
Absolutely.
So GPA can be the most basic remedial classes that they can pass a GPA on the football field. But if they don't have the core courses, they're not gonna make it into college.
Exactly. Yeah, now, we have a list at the high school that each child is given that tells them these are the courses you must have in order for you to meet the Interscholastic Athletic Association requirements for college. For example, they may say you need 3 years of English, you need 2 years of math, but they'll specify what English is, what math, what sciences, what social studies, and we as a district make up that list, send it to the NCAA. They look at that list and they approve those classes and then send it back to us and say, these classes are approved by the NCAA, and therefore, if your students take these classes, then they will meet the NCAA eligibility requirements as long as they pass the course.
So that's the track that we're on.
Yes, that's been in place for quite some time.
Okay. All right, Ms. Paul, any other names on
It
the?
looks like Dr. M.K. Hall.
Good evening, all. Marguerite Hall, 2 Pittman Lane, Sicklerville, New Jersey. Good evening. I have 3 items. One, I come in the capacity of the president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Southern New Jersey chapter. I would like to advise the board that we are releasing our Rising to the Top scholarship. As a member of Winslow Township, I didn't have any Winslow Township last year. I want to make sure that this information is getting to the right person. So you will let me know, I'll be sure as early as tomorrow, and I will personally send it out.
Well,
The scholarship targets the graduate of 2023, targeting Black females. Our organization's mission is to advocate on behalf of Black women and girls in leadership development and gender equity in the area of health, education, and economic empowerment. Again, the scholarships go out, and not only do they receive a monetary value, they also receive a laptop. The rubric includes not only grades and academic involvement, but because we are a nonprofit, the rubric includes volunteer service. I know that because of the pandemic, that has affected a lot of our young ladies, but we stick by that. So before I leave tonight, if you would kindly let me know whose hand this goes in, because I would hate to live here. Yours?
Yes,
I'll make sure you get it.
please.
I would hate to live here, sit on the committee, and not see any of my girls come for an interview. Number 2, March 15th, I commend you on the subject matter expert. My question is being presented to the parents. Will the staff, the teaching staff, also participate in this so that they can work tangent with the parents in these particular mental health areas?
I'm sorry, I was putting my email address down to hand it to her, so she'd make sure to get it right to me. I'm sorry, what was your question again?
In reference to March 15th and the subject matter expert you have addressing the parents at the town hall,
Yes,
will the education staff throughout the school district also have access, probably on a separate training, so that they will be able to work in tangent with the parents when these conditions are recognized?
yes, well, our teachers have already begun receiving training in SEL and mental health. So that's been ongoing. When this go out, the invitation, we're going to invite teachers, parents, so everybody can come out. But we just piggybacking on the training that we are already providing in our schools for our staff. Yeah, many of our teachers have already been trained.
All right, thank you. And third, after studying through the ethics of the board, my last concern will go to the appropriate individual. Thank you.
And if I could say, Marguerite, it's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, it has.
Madam President, that concludes those that have signed up.
Mhm.
Mr. Bossiani?
There are no callers at this time.
No one in the waiting room? Okay, thank you. So therefore, at this time, board members, I'm asking for a motion to adjourn public comment.
Motion to adjourn public comment.
Second. Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Thank you. Mr. Long?
Yes, Madam President, there is a need for an executive session in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. The Winslow Township Board of Education will be entering into an executive session on February 8th, 2023 at approximately 9:15 p.m. Of the 9 exceptions that permit us to enter into executive session, I would cite number 1, which would be matters of confidentiality, which would be student privacy under FERPA, which is the Federal Student Privacy Act. And I would anticipate that executive session would last approximately 30 minutes. I frequently underestimate that. I'm going to take a chance and overestimate that tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Long. At this time, board members, I'm asking for a motion to approve our moving into executive session.
Motion to approve going into executive session.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Moore. Any comments or questions on that? If not, roll call, please.
Ms. Dredden,
Yes.
Ms. Esposito.
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Nieves,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. We will now recess to executive session.
Excuse me, there's someone leaving the microphone.
Oh, do you, board